journey, I wanted everyone to get the sense of how I had came about and some of the things that I had experienced. Um, Coming out and even growing up, even before coming to Sava, I had worked for several companies, and even coming into Sava, I had experienced some things that were not so great. I was always perceived to be, white. Um, Not by everyone, but for the most part, a large percentage. And while being in, these private settings or, you know, in conference rooms or in meetings, I would hear disparaging things about people of color. And then when I would make it known that, hey, I'm actually African American, my family's African American, my mother, my grandfather, they would be really shocked. And their whole perception, their whole persona would change. And it was like they were walking on water after, they had said these other things. A couple of companies I left, but, I have experienced it early on in Sava, and things have transpired to get better. Um, but that's the biggest part of it, being being considered white has been something that I have had to work on with myself. Growing up in the South and having my subconscious bias, with my grandparents, being early on into segregation and things of that nature, I was only taught one thing growing up in a very small African American community. So there have been people that have actually I look up to, one being my mother, um, one being my uncles. Uh, my uncle was the first African American policeman in my community, in my county. So I looked up to him. My mother, actually a single mom, raised me and gave up her goals and aspirations to raise my sister and myself. She was a runner, and she ran with Wilma Rudolph, actually. And she could have went on to be in the Olympics, but she didn't. So I looked up to that as, and also one other person who actually is a distant relative of me and who I also look up to is Alex Haley. His grandmother was raised in my hometown, Queen Haley. And I remember him sitting on our front porch listening to stories from him before he wrote Roots. So those are the three people who played a huge role in making me who I am today. And the most important person that I can say who also has made me who I am and made me transpire to maybe a better person is my daughter. She's only 17. She's very active in the community. But she's made me realize some of the subconscious biases that I had within myself that I've had to work on. She's very active at school and has experienced some of the same things, even though she's a little bit darker than I am. But she's experienced some of the same things, but she's worked on them, and she's became a pillar in the community. And I continually work on it day by day. I guess the only thing that I tell her is we're a very, very religious family. One of the things is, keep her beliefs, and don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. Don't be afraid to talk. If you're around, a certain group of people and they're saying disparaging things, or even if it's not about your group, if it's about someone else, don't be afraid to say that that is wrong. And, you know, whether it be LGBTQ or whatever it may be, just tell them it's wrong. Speak up for what you believe in. And she does that. She's criticized for it sometimes, but she's not afraid to do that. I can say that Sava now, the people that I work with within my department, we may not all think alike. We may not be all from the same place, but we all respect one another. And I think that when people realize that if you give another person respect and respect their ideas, that it makes it a much better place. And we ask questions. I mean, I get a lot of questions from them. being the only African American within my group, I do get a lot of questions, and they accept them, and when they ask them, I'm not afraid to answer them. That's all I ask from them. Be blunt with me. Ask me what you want to, and that's it.